What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we have a Q&A. Specifically, this is a Q&A about my contest prep. So I threw up this video on my TikTok account asking you guys what some questions you had for me about my prep were. I got a bunch of good questions and I went through and I picked out 8 of them, it looks like, and we're going to go through those today. For those of you guys who are interested in getting your questions answered on my next Q&A, then go ahead and follow me on TikTok if you don't already, so that you can not miss out on those opportunities to ask your questions. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into it. First question is from Noah, and this is a 3-part question. So they ask, do you feel like you lost any size? What were the hardest mental aspects? And how much size do you want to gain before competing again? So do I feel like I lost any size? No, I don't. Throughout the course of the entire prep, I was able to improve my gym performance and my strength, if not, at the very least, hold it. On top of that, my protein intake was perfectly adequate, and I was on PEDs. So you take all of those things happening, there's no way that I'm going to lose muscle in an environment like that. Even in a calorie deficit, that's still a pretty anabolic environment, or it at least isn't catabolic enough to cause noticeable amounts of muscle mass. Second part to this question is, what were the hardest mental aspects? The hardest mental aspect of prep, by and large, is, for me, was the lack of energy. Just the overall fatigue that I felt. Literally sitting on this couch, especially at nighttime, for whatever reason, by the end of the day, it was getting so hard for me to get off the couch. Literally, for me to get off the couch, you can see on either end of our couch, we have these armrests. I would literally have to, like, 2-arm push myself up off this couch to get off. My legs felt like concrete. They were so heavy. Taking our dog for a walk in the morning and in the afternoon was miserable. Like, the fatigue was the hardest part, and at some point it eventually got to where my mental fatigue was extreme as well. I couldn't really hold conversations. I would be talking about something and I would forget what it was that I was thinking about, and that was definitely the hardest part for me. Honestly, this is another one of the questions that I'll get to later, but the hunger and the cravings is not really something that bothered me at all. And the hardest part of this definitely was the fatigue that I felt just from combination of dieting for so long and being the leanest that I had ever been. So, and then how much size do I want to gain before competing again? You know, that's really a hard question to answer. Right now, my gut tells me that I can and should compete in the middleweight division again. I can definitely be much lighter, and I can definitely be bigger. I mean, obviously everywhere, but specifically looking to improve my lower body. So I don't really have a set number. It's going to be more based off of a look. Once I get to the point where I've brought my legs up to the point where I'm happy with the flow of my physique overall, I will compete again. And that could be, you know, that could be 20 pounds of muscle, that could be 5 pounds of muscle. I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's going to be more of a look that I'm chasing. Next question comes from D, and they ask, what part of the day did you look forward to the most during prep? Probably either. There's a tie between the morning, when I would get my breakfast, after my morning walk, before I would eat my breakfast. That little time, I was always like looking forward, because it was a combination of finishing up the steps, because going back to my last question with the fatigue, probably the second hardest part of the prep, other than nighttime, was waking up in the morning and getting my morning steps done. At some point, it was like really difficult for me to just get up and get out the door. So finishing that plus sitting down to eat my breakfast was probably like the time that I looked forward to the most. But another time that I looked forward to the most was after I eat 6 meals, and after the 5th meal is when we take our dog out. And then after that, once we come in from taking our dog out, that's kind of like when the day is over. That's kind of when we sit down on the couch and watch TV and stuff. And that was probably the second time that I looked forward to the most, because I knew that the fucking day was over. And I just got to sit on the couch and watch TV and try to focus on what I was watching. And then I would sit here and drink some diet soda for an hour to an hour and a half, and then I would eat my last meal, and then I would go to bed. So it's one of those 2 times, and it kind of depended on the day. Next question is from Rex, and he asks, was it easy to stick to your diet, and did you cheat? It was very easy for me to stick to my diet, and no, I did not cheat. I think it's important to mention that I am, and this is going to sound corny, but I'm a very experienced dieter. I've been tracking my nutrition and all of that stuff for the past like 5 to 6 years. And over the course of those 5 to 6 years, I've done a 100-pound weight loss. This prep was a 70-pound weight loss. There's probably been 3 to 5 times where I've done a 25 to 35 pound weight cut, and I've probably done 5 to 6 10 to 20 pound mini cuts over the course of that 5 to 6 year period. And then on top of that, I've probably done 4 bulking phases that were 25 pounds or heavier of body weight gain. And out of those 4, 3 of them have been 40 pounds or heavier. So basically what I'm saying is that over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, I have done a lot of manipulation with my nutrition, and I at this point am, robotic about manipulating my nutrition. I can manipulate my nutrition to make my body weight do what I want it to do effortlessly. It's not even something that is a challenge for me. It was a challenge in my first couple of years, and in my first couple of fat loss phases, I was tempted to cheat on the diet and would have cravings and stuff like that. But the more of the fat loss phases that I have gone through, and the more that I have exposed myself to those cravings and the temptations of hunger, the better that I've gotten at being able to avoid them. So this prep for me was I kind of mentioned this earlier, a lot of people when they go and prep, they really will struggle with hunger, and being on the diet and not being able to cheat on the diet is something that really bothers them. That is really not something that I struggle with at all. I went 7 months without eating at a restaurant, and honestly, not even trying to say this to sound like hardcore bodybuilder guy, I could probably, I'm saying this out loud, but I could go the rest of my life, hypothetically speaking, without ever eating at a restaurant again. Like, restaurant food is delicious, but I don't get this like crazy thing from it anymore. And how locked in I was and focused on the prep, it literally didn't even cross my mind one time. No, I did not cheat on my diet, and yes, it was very easy for me to stick to my diet, but if you had asked me this question a couple of years ago, the answer would have been very different. So I want to make that caveat because I think there will be a lot of people that will watch this video and may not be at that level of adherence yet, and they may beat themselves up because of that. And I used to do the same thing, but again, experience and the more skin that you get in the game, the better that you get at dealing with these things. So by this point in my lifting career, I'm locked in on the diet. Nutrition adherence is not an issue with me. Nutrition kind of happens on autopilot for me. Next question comes from Aiden, A-D-A-N. I hope that I pronounced that right. How were the nerves before going on stage, and did you feel prepared enough? This is actually insane, but I was not nervous at all. I was unbelievably confident going on stage. I really, really thought that I was going to be freaking the fuck out and just absolutely losing my shit, but I was not at all. I was absolutely unbelievably confident. I was in a very good mood all day. even peak week, the whole peak week, I thought that during peak week, I thought that I was going to be freaking out. And peak week was the most relaxed, calming week that I've had in a long time. So I was actually extremely calm and very, very confident heading onto the stage. Do I feel like I was prepared enough? I feel like I was very well prepared, but I definitely think that I could have been more prepared. So yes and no. I definitely put in a lot of work to be prepared, but of course, when you sit in hindsight and you reflect on things, there's always going to be something that I feel like I could have done better or could have done more. But overall, I felt very confident. I really did. I was walking on stage, and not that I was expecting to win, but I was walking on stage, and I just felt very content with whatever happens. And I was just gonna, as cliche as this sounds, I was just gonna do as best as I could do, and then whatever happens. It was kind of out of my control from there. But I felt very confident in the amount of work that I had put in. So. Next question comes from Joe Tro. What did your carb load look like? Starts, amounts, etc. So I didn't really do a traditional carb load. I basically reverse dieted into my show. This prep for me was very, very long, and that was intentional. Before I competed this year, I had kind of set out like what would be the ideal scenario. And no matter what way you want to skin it, if you want to ask me from a competitive aspect, the ideal scenario is always going to be ready in shape early before the show, a couple of weeks early, and then reverse diet / deload / drop fatigue heading into the show, because anybody who's competed before knows that at the end of prep you feel fucking terrible, and you are trying to not step on stage feeling terrible. You kind of want to bring some life back to your body and bring some life back to your physique before you get on stage, not only so that you can perform, but also to look better. I think we've all seen it in either a competitor's physique or maybe in our own physique. When we're really flat and we're really depleted and we're really tired, our physique doesn't have that same life and that same pop that it has after we've kind of filled out a little bit more. So that was the plan that I was headstrong on, and that was the plan that got executed. So in terms of what my carb loading process looked like I said, I didn't have a traditional like front load or back load where I had one day where I had like 1,000 grams of carbs or anything like that. I basically, starting at 2 weeks out, the lowest my carbs had ever gotten was about somewhere between 150 and 200. Let's just split the difference and say 175. So my carbs were at 175, and then I brought them up to 300 for a couple days, and then I brought them up to 350 for a couple of days, and then I brought them up to 400 for a couple of days. And when I was in peak week, it was basically like 400 to 450 every single day. The Thursday before my show, I had 400. The Friday before my show, I had 500. And then on show day, I had like 300 from morning to finals. So I had about 100 to 150 carbs in me from the time that I woke up at 4 a.m. to the time that I got on stage at about 10 a.m. And then from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., I got about another 150 carbs in me. So there was no like crazy carb load, 1,000 gram of carb days like that. It was just a very slow, gradual increase starting at about 2 weeks out. And that was just to prevent large water weight fluctuations, large body weight fluctuations, digestive distress. I always think that if you give yourself the opportunity and give yourself the time to take things instead of doing a carb load over a 1 week period where you do a couple of days of extreme loading and depletion, I think it's going to be better to do that more less dramatically, so less highs and lows, and just something more consistent over a longer period of time, assuming that you have enough time to do that, which is why I had a longer prep. So yeah, So no traditional carb load. It was just a very moderate, basically reverse diet up into the show. Okay, next question comes from Matthew. What did it feel like on stage? It was great. Again, kind of going back to the question that I answered earlier, I thought that I would be nervous, but I really wasn't nervous at all. In the novice division, I got moved to the center right away. So very early on, I felt very confident. So I felt like I was protruding that on stage. And then in the middleweight open division, I got moved towards the center again, but just a little bit later on. So I felt very confident that I was on stage both times. There really wasn't any time that I was on stage where I felt like I wasn't holding my own, or I felt like anybody was really beating me. And maybe that's just me being like super delusional and just, feeling like I was the best that was there, even though obviously the placings didn't reflect that. But I felt very confident, and there was no nerves at all. I'll be honest, I wouldn't say, I've heard people say that, being on stage is like a life-changing feeling. I wouldn't say that it was like a life-changing feeling for me. I don't know if that's just because I have like, an extensive athletic background. Like I've played sports my whole life, and I've been on like, big stages and playoff games and felt pressure and nerves and all of that stuff before. So this really wasn't anything new to me, I guess that you could say. But it was a good feeling, and I felt confident. But I wouldn't say that I had any like revelations or epiphanies or anything up there. But it was a great feeling. I had a blast, and I felt really confident. Okay, Big Jones, next question. What points in your physique need to be brought up to give you a better package on stage? Definitely my legs. I mean, overall, I think that I need more size everywhere. I only competed at like 170 pounds, and I could have easily and should have been much lighter than that. But I think my legs specifically, and all parts of the leg, quad, adductor, hamstring, calf. If there's any part of my lower body that's like okay, it's probably my glutes, but even my glutes could be better. But specifically, it's the quads and the adductors that I notice. I feel like specifically with me, my strong points are my shoulders and my lats. I feel like I have a really wide upper body, but the disadvantage of that is that it makes my legs look small. And obviously my legs aren't big, but the fact that my upper body is like so wide in comparison, I feel like that makes my legs look narrower. So the way that I bring up my lower body width to match my upper body width is with more quad and more adductor. So that's definitely what I'm focusing on. Obviously, I want to improve everything in my upper body as well. But if I'm being very honest with you, if I could hold my upper body where it is and add 5 to 6 pounds of muscle on just my lower body, I would feel very confident putting that package on stage. And if I were able to bring that in really good condition, I feel like I could win a middleweight class with that. So that's kind of the goal right now. Lower body, legs. Final question, Geo the Bio. I don't know if it's Geo the Bio or Geo the Bio. How hungry were you throughout this prep, and did it make you more cranky? So I was hungry, but it wasn't really something that bothered me a whole lot. So the hanger was not really something, it'd be so funny to get my girlfriend on here. She'd probably say something entirely different, but the hunger was really not something that bothered my mood. And only really towards the last like 2 weeks of the prep did the hunger actually start to bother me physically. And this is something that I, bring up with clients sometimes is hunger kind of has like two ways that it can affect you. The first is mentally, where you're sitting there like, thinking about the food. Oh, I'm so hungry, da da da. And then there's when the hunger starts to actually affect you physically, and that is like with hunger pains. And that is the hunger pains, in my opinion, are really only reserved like for a contest prep scenario. In the last 2 weeks of the prep, there would get to be the point where I would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I would be so hungry that my stomach, everyone's heard the term hunger pain before, where you're hungry and your stomach is cramping. In the last 2 weeks, it got to the point where those cramps were starting to get annoying for me. But as far as mentally being like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, really wasn't something that I dealt with at all. So the anger and crankiness as well, I didn't really feel like it was something that impacted me, but my girlfriend may say otherwise. Don't ask her this question. Okay, guys, so those were a bunch of great questions, and I hope that I gave you guys some good insight to the prep. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll just kind of do like a continuation of the Q&A in the comments below. As I mentioned earlier, if you guys want to get involved in the next Q&A, please follow me on TikTok, because that will be where I will post the video to gather all of the questions. So please follow me over there if you don't already. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to everybody who contributed questions to this video. Hope that you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll talk to you later. Take care of yourselves.